I will always remember the moment my best friend's mother reached for my face with tears in her eyes and the smell of alcohol on her breath. For one impossible second, the woman I had respected for almost half my life leaned in as if she wanted to erase every boundary we had ever known. My heart stopped, not because I wanted what was happening, but because I knew that whatever choice I made next would either destroy an innocent family or protect it forever. As her trembling lips came closer, I gently held her shoulders, looked into her unfocused eyes, and whispered the only words my conscience would allow: "I want to kiss you when you're sober." Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories to life. For years, people believed my life was blessed because I had the kind of friendship everyone wished for. My best friend, Nolan Mercer, and I had grown up together in a quiet town where everyone knew everyone else's business. We had survived awkward middle school years, celebrated high school victories, and promised each other that no matter where life took us, we would always remain brothers. His family treated me like one of their own. His father, Victor, was a hard-working contractor who rarely spoke unless he had something meaningful to say. His mother, Elena, had always been the warm heart of their home. She remembered birthdays, baked pies just because someone had a difficult week, and somehow made every guest feel as though they belonged. I never once looked at her as anything other than the mother I never had. After my own parents divorced, I spent countless afternoons at the Mercer house. Elena never tried to replace my mother, but she quietly filled empty spaces in my life without expecting anything in return. When I failed my driving test, she laughed with me until I stopped feeling embarrassed. When my college application was rejected, she reminded me that one closed door often protected us from walking into the wrong room. She believed in people when they had stopped believing in themselves. That was the woman I thought I knew. Years passed. Nolan accepted a job several states away while I remained in our hometown running a small architectural design business. We talked often, but adulthood slowly replaced daily conversations with occasional phone calls. His parents stayed behind, adjusting to the silence that always follows when children leave home. Victor buried himself in work, while Elena volunteered at community events and continued pretending everything was fine. Looking back, I realized she had become an expert at smiling through loneliness, and none of us noticed how exhausted that smile had become. One bright Saturday afternoon, Nolan called and asked if I could stop by his parents' house. He was worried because his mother had recently sounded different during their conversations. She insisted she was happy, but something in her voice felt heavy. Since I lived nearby, he hoped I could casually check on them without making it obvious. I promised I would. The house looked exactly as it always had. Flowers lined the front porch, the wind chimes softly echoed in the warm breeze, and sunlight poured across the driveway. Elena greeted me with genuine excitement, insisting I stay for lunch. We spent hours talking about ordinary things. She asked about my work, my failed relationships, and whether I was finally learning to cook something besides pasta. She laughed often, but every laugh seemed to disappear a little too quickly. Whenever I mentioned Victor, she hesitated before answering, as though every sentence required careful editing. Over the next several weeks I visited more often. Sometimes Victor wasn't home until late evening. Other times he barely acknowledged either of us before disappearing into his workshop. I never witnessed shouting or obvious cruelty, only a painful distance between two people who had once looked deeply in love. The silence inside that marriage was louder than any argument. One afternoon Elena admitted that she sometimes spent entire days without having a meaningful conversation with anyone. She wasn't asking for sympathy. She simply stated it as though describing the weather. Loneliness, I realized, doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it quietly moves into your home and convinces you that being invisible is normal. Then came the neighborhood charity festival, an event that usually filled everyone with excitement. Volunteers celebrated after another successful fundraiser. Food, music, and laughter carried through the park under the afternoon sun. Elena surprised everyone by accepting several glasses of wine. Those who knew her understood how unusual that was. She rarely drank more than a single sip during holidays. As the celebration stretched into the evening, people gradually returned home. Victor had left hours earlier because of an emergency call from work. Elena insisted she was perfectly capable of getting home, but her steps had become uncertain. I offered to drive her, believing it was the responsible thing to do. The ride was unusually quiet. She stared through the window, watching golden sunlight disappear behind distant trees. Then she suddenly began talking, not about the festival, but about regret. She confessed that she no longer recognized the woman she had become. She missed feeling appreciated. She missed laughing with her husband. She missed believing she was beautiful. Every sentence sounded less like a complaint and more like someone mourning a version of herself that had slowly vanished. When we reached her house, I walked her inside to ensure she was safe. The familiar home somehow felt unfamiliar. Family photographs still decorated every wall, yet they resembled memories trapped behind glass. As I prepared to leave, she unexpectedly reached for my hand. Tears filled her eyes. She thanked me for listening when no one else seemed to notice she was disappearing. Then, before I understood what was happening, she stepped closer. Time seemed to stop. She gently touched my face, leaned forward, and tried to kiss me. Instinctively, I held her shoulders, not forcefully, but firmly enough to stop her. Looking into eyes clouded by heartbreak and alcohol, I quietly said, "I want to kiss you when you're sober." The words confused her. She blinked several times before realizing what I truly meant. I wasn't accepting her affection. I was reminding her that she deserved to make important choices with a clear mind. Within seconds, shame flooded across her face. She covered her mouth and began crying harder than I had ever seen anyone cry. She repeatedly apologized, insisting she didn't understand what had come over her. She wasn't trying to betray her husband. She wasn't trying to betray her son. She simply felt invisible for so long that when someone finally listened without judging her, loneliness convinced her it was love. I stayed long enough to make her coffee, leave water beside the couch, and ensure she wouldn't be alone if she became ill. Before leaving, I called Nolan and simply said that his mother had been having a difficult emotional day and needed him to visit soon. I never mentioned the attempted kiss. For weeks I carried that secret alone. I questioned every decision. Had I somehow encouraged emotional dependence without realizing it? Should I tell Victor? Should I tell Nolan? Every possible choice seemed capable of destroying someone I loved. Then everything changed. About a month later Nolan unexpectedly returned home for several days. Instead of thanking me for checking on his parents, he confronted me with visible anger. Someone in town had seen me driving Elena home after the charity event. Rumors had already grown far beyond reality. According to gossip, we had been secretly seeing each other for months. I felt physically sick. Before I could explain, Nolan demanded the truth. I looked at my oldest friend and realized that honesty might cost me the only brother I had ever known. So I told him everything. I told him exactly what happened from beginning to end. I repeated every word I had spoken that evening. I admitted that I kept the secret because I wanted to protect his mother's dignity, not because I had anything to hide. At first he didn't believe me. His disappointment hurt more than his anger. Days passed without hearing from him. Then Victor unexpectedly appeared at my office. His expression revealed nothing. He quietly asked if we could talk. I expected accusations. Instead, he surprised me. He confessed that Elena had told him everything the morning after the incident. She had remembered enough to understand what she had done and had immediately broken down in tears. She admitted every detail before anyone else could tell him. Victor said he had never seen her so ashamed. Then he revealed the truth none of us knew. Months before the charity event, Elena had been diagnosed with severe depression. She had hidden it from almost everyone because she feared becoming a burden. The drinking that evening wasn't normal behavior. It was the desperate decision of someone trying to silence emotional pain for just a few hours. Victor lowered his head and admitted something even more heartbreaking. He hadn't been working late because he loved his career. He had been working constantly because he believed earning more money would solve every problem their family faced. He never realized his wife didn't need a larger savings account. She needed her husband. The room became painfully silent. Victor thanked me for protecting his wife's dignity even when rumors could have ruined my reputation. I don't know many men who would have done what you did, he quietly admitted. Those words should have brought relief. Instead, they made me cry. Because I realized how close one terrible moment had come to destroying decades of friendship. A week later Nolan finally called. His voice sounded different. He apologized before I had the chance to say anything. His mother had confessed everything exactly as I described it. She had also told him the words I spoke when she leaned toward me. I want to kiss you when you're sober. She explained that hearing those words had instantly reminded her of the woman she wanted to be instead of the lonely stranger she had become. Rather than taking advantage of her weakest moment, I had protected her from making a decision she would regret forever. Nolan admitted he would probably never forget how scared he felt hearing the rumors. I admitted I would probably never forget how scared I felt carrying the truth alone. Neither of us had been perfect. But our friendship proved stronger than gossip. The following months weren't magically easy. Healing never is. Elena began professional counseling and joined a support group where she finally stopped pretending everything was fine. Victor reduced his workload despite losing several important contracts. Every Wednesday afternoon became their dedicated time together. Sometimes they walked through local parks. Sometimes they visited museums. Sometimes they simply sat on the front porch drinking coffee and talking the way they had decades earlier. Slowly, life returned to their home. Not because problems disappeared. Because people finally faced them together. One afternoon nearly a year later, I received an invitation to celebrate Victor and Elena's 35th wedding anniversary. I almost declined, worried my presence might reopen old wounds. Instead, Elena greeted me with the same warm smile I remembered from childhood. Only this time there was peace behind it. She hugged me briefly and quietly thanked me, not for keeping a secret, but for reminding her that respect is often the purest form of love. She said that one sentence changed her life because it forced her to confront the pain she had been hiding instead of escaping it. During the celebration I watched Victor place his hand over hers exactly as he probably had decades earlier when they first fell in love. They still carried scars. But scars often prove that healing happened. As the afternoon sunlight painted everything gold, Nolan stood beside me laughing about old childhood memories. For the first time in a long while, nothing felt broken. I realized that genuine love sometimes means refusing the moment everyone else would misunderstand. Real character is revealed not when temptation is absent, but when integrity costs something. That evening could have become a lifelong tragedy. Instead, it became the painful beginning of one family's healing. Rumors eventually disappeared. Trust returned. Friendship survived. A marriage found another chance. And one lonely woman rediscovered her own worth. Speech Balloon special request: before the story ends, tell us in the comments, what would you have done if you were in this situation? If this story touched your heart, please like, comment, share, and subscribe for more meaningful and inspiring stories. Your support encourages us to keep creating stories that touch hearts around the world. Life has a way of testing us in moments we never expect. Sometimes the greatest act of love is not giving someone what they think they want, but protecting them from the decision they would regret forever. Kindness is strongest when no one is watching. Forgiveness begins with honesty. Families heal when pride gives way to compassion. And second chances become possible when people choose integrity over impulse, hope over despair, and respect over selfish desire. If we can be the person who protects another human being at their weakest instead of taking advantage of them, then we leave this world a little kinder than we found it.